You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Let's have a look at New Zealand and talk about their performance in this World Cup for 2023. It was a bit of an up and down World Cup for New Zealand. A World Cup campaign that was plagued by injuries, the team losing games and facing elimination and not really qualifying for the semi-finals, but New Zealand found a way, as they always do, to try and qualify for the semis, which they did. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the job done against India, but they gave it a good fight in that semi-final. So for New Zealand, yet again, another World Cup. Unfortunately, they weren't able to go on and play in another final. They've already played in the last two finals of the World Cup. 2015, 2019, didn't win both of them against Australia and England in those finals. This World Cup, to make it to the third semi-final in a row, is a great achievement, but they'll be disappointed that they weren't able to get the job done. So let's talk about their performance in this World Cup and how they went about their business. Well, their result in this World Cup, they finished up as semi-finalists. In the group stage, they won 5 games and lost 4. Leading run scorer was Rachin Ravinda with 578 runs. Leading wicket taker was Mitchell Satner with 16 wickets. New Zealand started the tournament off in good style. They won convincingly over England by 9 wickets. They won against the Netherlands by 99 runs. They won against Bangladesh by 8 wickets. They won against Afghanistan by 149 runs. And then all of a sudden, New Zealand went on a bit of a losing streak, actually, after that. After a very good start, they started to lose games and they were in a bit of a slump. They lost to India by 4 wickets. They lost to Australia by 5 runs in a very close run chase and match up there in Dharamshala. They lost to South Africa by 190 runs. They also lost to Pakistan by 21 runs on Duckworth-Lewis method. And in the final game of the group stage, they won against Sri Lanka by 5 wickets. And that was able to cement New Zealand a spot in the semi-final. And then in the first semi-final against India, they lost by 70 runs and they weren't able to go through to the final. So that's how New Zealand performed in this World Cup overall. As I said, a bit of a contrasting World Cup for New Zealand. They started really well, and then towards the back end of the tournament, they were on a losing streak and, facing elimination and not qualifying for the semis. But they found a way, as they always do, New Zealand. Obviously for them, at the end of the day, the injuries to certain players, Kane Williamson didn't play most of the games because Kane Williamson, obviously coming into this World Cup, he was under some doubt because of that knee injury that he picked up in the IPL this year, whether or not he was going to play in this World Cup. So he managed to get ready for the World Cup. He played a few games up front, wasn't able to play another few games after that because he picked up another injury, Kane Williamson, which was a fractured thumb. And it was pretty innocuous. It wasn't when batting. It was pretty much running between the wickets. And the fielder threw the ball back to Kane Williamson's end. And unfortunately, Kane Williamson copped the ball on the thumb and he was out with a fractured thumb. Tom Latham had to captain the side. Also other injuries to other bowlers like Matt Henry had to go because of a hamstring injury. Lockie Ferguson had his injuries. Tim Southey had an injury to his finger or thumb before the tournament started. So New Zealand had some injuries and in the end, obviously for New Zealand, they just ran out of steam, I think. Just ran out of puff. And the energy, pretty much that was all New Zealand were doing in terms of trying to keep in this tournament. They used a lot of energy. A lot of players had to play because certain injuries to players. So I think they just ran out of steam at the end, New Zealand, and they weren't able to get the job done against India. Obviously, India were playing some good cricket, and it was always going to be hard for them in that semi-final, but they played pretty well. But as I said, for New Zealand, yet again, another World Cup where New Zealand don't win another World Cup. But to make it to 3 semi-finals in a row, 2015, 2019, and 2023, to make it to the semi-finals on 3 occasions in a row, consecutively, I think is a good effort from New Zealand. But the disappointing factor would be is that we weren't able to win a World Cup in those three World Cups. They played in the final in 2015, 2019, obviously lost to Australia, lost to England, as we know, at Lords in that famous game. 2023... they struggled and they fought their way to the semis. Their batting and bowling was good at times. Obviously, Rachin Ravinda has been a revelation for New Zealand in this World Cup. A very young, exciting talent. He batted well. Daryl Mitchell played well. On the batting side of things, Kane Williamson, played some good knocks here and there. And their other batters like Tom Latham, Glenn Phillips didn't really have great World Cups. In terms of their bowling, Mitchell Satner was good. He was probably the best bowler, being the leading wicket taker. Tim Southey, Trent Boult had some good games but struggled. Matt Henry, when he played before he got injured, he did pretty well. And New Zealand at times struggled with the ball. So Lockie Ferguson went for some runs, didn't really have an impact that New Zealand would have wanted in this campaign. So, as I said, for New Zealand, it was a bit of an up and down tournament, but they're a team that always comes back and fight hard, and that's what they did. Obviously for New Zealand, they had their opportunities, they had their moments in this World Cup that they could have grabbed. The game against Australia, for example, losing that game at Dharamshala by 5 runs in that run chase, chasing 380, was a very good game of cricket, and they nearly got over the line there. Unfortunately, it didn't go their way. So for New Zealand, they should be proud of their efforts, knowing that we made it to the semi-finals again, but they'll be bitterly disappointed that they didn't go on and, make a good effort of it. They got outplayed by India in the semi-final. Obviously, India were the team to beat at the time. They were up against it, but they gave it a good fight nonetheless. So for New Zealand overall, their World Cup campaign, it presented challenges. We saw the likes of Rachin Ravinda really announce himself to the world. The batting was good at times, then struggled. Same with the bowling. So I think New Zealand, they'll be disappointed, but they should be proud of their efforts, knowing that they gave it a good go. Unfortunately, wasn't meant to be in 2023. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to our ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 coverage over these last few weeks. It's been great fun, and hope you enjoyed it as much as we have bringing it to you. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the podcast on our YouTube channel, let us know in the comments your thoughts on New Zealand's ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 campaign. We would love to hear what you have to say.